Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AEW Dynamite review for January 26, 2022. As always, I am your host, Joe, and welcome to Joe's Wrestling podcast right here on the Joe Lee podcast. Today, we got a hell of a card. With Beach Break, we got two really amazing pay-per-view level matches, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Before we get started, thank you everyone for showing up to the first episode of Joe's Wrestling Reviews on the podcast, and I appreciate the support. It was actually one of our highest views videos, and I appreciate every single one of you guys who came out and supported that podcast. If you like the content, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and share it with someone who also might be interested in wrestling reviews, or maybe even possible some of our other football podcasts right here on the channel. Before we get started, I do have some news to talk about. Cody Rhodes actually confirms his AEW contract status. He is actually currently working with a handshake deal. Now, whether or not this is kayfabe or real is really situational, because I do believe it's real that they haven't signed a contract, because if he had signed a contract, it probably would have leaked or lots of people would know. So I do believe he's actually working on a handshake deal until they restructure his contract. But I think he's going to come back and re-sign. They're just doing this to add intrigue to either the reality TV show that he has going on I don't know if it's on TNT or TBS. I don't really watch his reality show. But I'm assuming that that's the driving point for this new season that he's having. And so I'm sure that at the end of the new season, he's going to end up signing the contract again. And they're just really playing this up again for the reality TV show. So he says he loves AEW and that he feels like this is his home. So I expect him to just re-sign the contract as soon as, whatever is tying him up from not re-signing it allows him to do that. Let's see. The other one was a little more controversial. We got Renee Paquette saying that Bully Ray has not called to apologize to her or Jon Moxley, saying that there's no payoff. This is an angle. So Bully Ray actually commented saying that that Jon Moxley somehow needed to apologize to the audience for being away from television for so long, and it was just mind-boggling that this would go through someone's head of thinking hey, this is a good thing to say on air. So highly controversial. If you watch the GCW pay-per-view, there were a lot of chants of F Bully Ray, which isn't great. So there seems to be some beef going in between them. Some people think that this is a work, and I honestly think that, Bully Ray just said something stupid on his podcast, and Renee Paquette, who is the wife of Jon Moxley, ended up saying some stuff back at him. So I think this is just not just someone being stupid and saying things for heat or attraction to their podcast. So I mean, I don't watch Bully Ray's podcast, so it's he has some really bad takes. There's been a lot of really bad takes throughout the year. So actually, the last one is more AEW wrestlers are expected to leave the company soon, and this is kind of the first generation wrestlers who started out with the company. A lot of jobbers Peter Avalon, Joey Janela, and Sonny Kiss are a couple I can name off the top of my head. Leo Rush also is not getting a contract re-signing because of some of the stuff he had demanded. He had demanded apology from Tony Khan, and he's probably not getting that anytime soon. So he's probably going to, actually he is going to be released. He actually posted on Twitter that he has some openings and to contact his agency about doing some house shows, live shows, whatever, independent shows. So that's that's all the news this week for All Elite Wrestling going into the show tonight. Really quick, let's go over the rankings. Adam Cole ranked number 1, followed by Dante Martin, and now we have Lance Archer ranked number 3. We have Andrade El Idolo ranked number 4, and we have Powerhouse Hobbs ranked number 5. He actually dropped position because of the loss to Dante Martin. last week. We covered that on the last week's review. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. So in the women's rankings, before the start of the show, we had Red Velvet with Leila Hirsch in second. Serena Deeb finally in the rankings before the show. I think Serena Deeb is going to stay second because we actually didn't see her this show at all. So really the storyline is going to be between Red Velvet and Leila Hirsch as the match was scheduled for this week. So the match takes place on took place on Wednesday. And it is something we're going to review today. We didn't see any Thunder Rosa, so I expect her to stay the same. Anna Jay drops ranking because she lost in a match to Jade Cargill on Rampage. I did not do a Rampage review. I'm not going to do a Rampage review going forward. Just too many things going on right now for me. And we will pick up Rampage maybe in the summer. We'll cover that, but I will keep you posted if any of the rankings change due to Rampage results. As far as getting the tag teams somewhere on the layout, I'm still working on that. Maybe I'll add the tag team rankings whenever we're talking about something tag team related, and you guys will be able to see that. Okay. Show starts out Sammy Guevara versus Cody Rhodes to crown undisputed TNT champion. There were no entrances for the match. Cody and Sammy were already in the ring. Both show mutual respect by shaking each other's hands when the match begins. Crowd is not very happy with Cody Rhodes being in the match. He gets booed quite a bit throughout the match. Match started like normal, with Cody's style being very vanilla and Sammy's being very high flying. Match spills to the outside as Sammy and Cody both try to attempt getting a ladder. Cody sets up a ladder in the corner of the ring, hanging it on the guardrail on the outside of the ring. You know, he has it pretty much like horizontal between the ring post and like the barricade. The match then spills into the crowd as both give blows to each other, and then they kind of like circle around the crowd. After Sammy hits Cody with a cutter, a ladder is brought into the ring, and both competitors battle it out in the ring. Then we see a shot of Scorpio Sky with Dan Lambert watching his match, possibly setting up for a next match for whoever ends up being the champion. Cody and Sammy offset the ladder. And Cody actually, both of them climb up, and then Cody hits him with a vertical suplex from the top of the ladder. When we return from, this actually takes us into the commercial. When we return from break, Cody sets up a ladder vertically in reverse, so it's actually like, the ladder is actually in like a V shape, and then there's like the little supports that he sets up. And he does like a front suplex. Instead of dropping him back, he actually drops him forward in between the ladder. So the ladder ends up like folding and it crunches on Sammy. Then I lost my notes here. Okay. After that, he puts Sammy's legs between a ladder and applies the figure 4 leg lock with a ladder set up on the corner and a ladder set up on... with a ladder set up in the center and one in the corner. Both competitors climb them. So Sammy climbs the corner ladder and Cody climbs up the center ladder going for the title. And then Cody doesn't realize that he realizes that he can't reach the belts from the corner ladder. So he jumps from the corner ladder onto Cody's ladder, and he actually hits him with a cutter, and he got some major air on that. Crowd goes wild. This is usually one of those spots where like a lot of wrestlers won't hit it, but we got some really talented wrestlers in Cody and Sammy Guevara, so not surprised that they were managed to perfectly execute that move. Just a beautiful move to see on television. While Cody tries to climb the ladder, Sammy sets the ladder parallel to Cody's ladder, and while they brawl out, Cody manages to get Sammy into the crossroads positions and actually hits it from the top of the ladder. The fight spills out to the outside of the ring, and Cody beats up Sammy and tries to break his ankle using a ladder. Fuego del Sol comes out and he interferes with the match. And while both go into the ring, Cody hits him with a Tiger Driver, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, it looks incredibly similar to the pedigree, which is kind of like they're trying to draw parallels between Triple H and Cody, as he's quote unquote burying talent. Yeah, when he hits the Tiger Driver, this allows Sammy to gain control of the match and get Cody outside the ring. And after hitting him with his finisher maneuver, I think it's the GTH, and then he props Cody on like the ladder that they had set up horizontally on the barricade. He sets up another ladder like adjacent, so kind of like in a T position, and then Sammy climbs it, and then Sammy jumps off of it. He hits a senton on the ladder, very Jeff Hardy-esque, and it looked really bad because I honestly think he should have like set the ladder a little farther back, because when he hit it, he actually landed on like the upper part of his back, and he pretty much like bent on the ladder, which, you know, didn't look too great for Sammy, and that looked like it hurt Sammy a lot more than it hurt Cody. Then both climb up the ladder one last time. Sammy manages to hit Cody with the belts hanging, so they're both on the top, and like the belts are hanging. So then Sammy grabs the belts and kind of just hits him with one of the belts, and Cody goes flying from the ladder onto the ground, and then, you know, Sammy's able to retrieve the belts, and he wins the match. He is now the undisputed TNT champion. Honestly, amazing match. I'm surprised we got this good of a match on television. Maybe I'm just accustomed to being disappointed with matches on television from, you know, other companies. But yeah, this match super delivered. If I had to give it a star rating out of 5, it'd probably be like a 4.5. It was just that good. Okay, moving on to the rest of the show. Actually, let's go back a little bit. I want to give my thoughts on like where both of these guys are kind of going next. I know for a fact that Sammy Guevara's storyline is pretty much going to set it up with Scorpio Sky, because Scorpio Sky has been saying that he has not had his fair chance at the TNT title, even though he is one of the top ranked, or was one of the top ranked, because the rankings kind of reset at the beginning of the year. So he's saying that he deserves his shot at the TNT title, and I'm not sure if we're going to see that anytime soon. I'm thinking this is kind of a long-term thing, because they've been wanting to give Scorpio Sky the championship for a while. They just haven't built his character quite right yet. And they're actually doing a pretty decent job in the last couple weeks. So I expect Scorpio Sky to win it at some point. How soon? I'm not sure. As far as Cody, again, like we mentioned in the news, he has not signed a contract officially. Even at the time of recording, he hasn't signed anything yet. So we will see what comes of that. If he does resign, which I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen, I honestly have no idea where they're going with Cody. So it's just something we'll have to see throughout the weeks. I honestly thought Cody was going to win this match. So, I mean, I guess I was surprised when I saw the result. I'm glad that it was Sammy that won, because Sammy kind of deserves it. This is kind of his redemption arc after losing to Cody, then winning the championship from Dustin, and being called interim this whole time. But now he's the actual TNT champion. So very interesting, great match, and we'll see how these stories go. All right, Tony Schiavone interviews Team Taz. Will Hobbs says that Dante Martin's victory over him was a fluke, and he challenges him for a rematch. Ricky Starks then starts talking about Jay Lethal, and he responds to Jay Lethal's challenge from Rampage last week, saying in Chicago it would be Ricky Starks versus Jay Lethal for the FTW Championship. Nothing too much furthering these storylines. Just kind of like an update on these. These matches are quite predictable, except for the Dante and Powerhouse Hobbs rematch. I can't say who will win that one, because on the one hand, you don't want a 50-50 book these guys, but on the other hand, that Dante Martin can't remain number 2. He's right behind Adam Cole, and you don't quite want him going for any championships right now, as it seems like Scorpio Sky is kind of wanting to go for that spot. So none of the like top tier championships are up for Dante Martin. So maybe my prediction is he loses to Powerhouse Hobbs and they kind of like even each other out in the rankings, or they knock both of themselves out of the rankings. So we will see. All right, Inner Circle, Proud and Powerful, aka Santana and Ortiz, and Chris Jericho versus 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. During the entrances, Santana and Ortiz go straight past Jericho while he relishes in his own entrance, the Judas entrance where everyone sings. And Santana and Ortiz have Jericho go first, but then Santana tags himself in, which upsets Jericho. And 2.0 actually get a chance to gain control of the match after some arguing between Santana and Jericho. Santana regains control of the match and tags out to Ortiz, but again, 2.0 managed to tag out to Garcia, and Garcia actually out-wrestles Ortiz for a bit. When Ortiz finds space to tag out to Santana, their tag team offense gains control of the match again. So a lot of like flip-flopping, and then this kind of will be a theme of the match until Jericho tags himself in the dysfunction of the Inner Circle. 2.0 and Garcia attack both of them, and it goes into commercials. When we return from commercials, 2.0 still has control of the match as they have Ortiz out wrestle until Ortiz hits a backdrop and is able to shift the momentum. And as it looks like Ortiz is going to tag Jericho, he actually tags Santana, who jumps on the ring apron. And while the rest of 2.0... Oh, and then again, because of dysfunction, they attack Santana. Jericho, gets off the ring apron and tries to like walk away. He doesn't quite walk away entirely. He's just kind of watching because the whole match, like it seems like Santana and Ortiz have been wanting to tag in Jericho. So it's just kind of weird. When Santana sets up 2.0 on the ropes, Jericho hits a Judas effect and Santana is able to get the pin. Post-match, we have some inaudible arguing between Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz, as it seems that Proud and Powerful are having some dysfunction with Jericho because of the promos from last week. So that storyline's kind of moving along. I actually thought that 2.0 was going to gain a victory here because of the dysfunction, but again, you're trying to set up the Proud and Powerful to look strong going into, whatever breaking out story they're going to have, whether it's they solve the issues with Jericho and they manage to like push for the tag titles, or Ortiz and Santana actually break out from the Inner Circle and then go and win the tag championships by themselves. So I'd like to see them turn heel because I think that's how they work best. But I don't know, we'll see, because Santana's promos as a babyface have been actually pretty cool. So I don't know if that's enough to carry them, but again, that we'll have to see how the storyline evolves. All right, Lance Archer challenges Adam Page for the AEW World Championship in a Texas death match in 2 weeks. This actually catches Adam Page by surprise, and so then he talks about it like it doesn't matter what type of match it is, just to bring it on, that he's gonna beat him. Pretty straightforward storyline. I'm thinking this is just kind of like just to give Adam Hangman Page another victory. I'm sure the match will be great. I'm not exactly sure where the match is because next week we're in Chicago, and the following week I'm not sure where we're at. But if it's at Texas, that kind of makes sense that we're getting a Texas death match. So I will keep you informed. Next week I'll have an answer for sure where it's going to be. And so, yeah, like we mentioned before I started the review, Lance Archer is actually ranked number 3 in the men's rankings, and I'm sure he will pass Dante Martin in the rankings before we head into the match. Okay, Jurassic Express and Christian are interviewed. Whoops, I accidentally hit my notes and I lost my placing. Let me find that again. Okay, Jurassic Express and Christian Cage are interviewed with Private Party and Matt Hardy. The match is set for Rampage. Christian talks about being laid out by the Gun Club. Matt Hardy interrupts and says it's Private Party's time as they're the number 1 ranked tag team. Post me, please show the graphic of the tag team championship rankings. Thank you. And then Jungle Boy calls Isaiah's Cassidy watch fake. And then Isaiah says that Matt Hardy actually gifted him that watch. And Jurassic Express laugh. And that's the end of this small promo interview segment. All right. CM Punk comes out and talks to the Cleveland crowd and says that he is sick of talking. He challenges MJF and shows off the scarf that he had stolen last week. And it thought that it might bring MJF out. And then he says he realized that this is actually a $5 scarf and that it is cheap and weak, just like MJF. Punk says that he wants MJF in Cleveland, and MJF comes out. MJF plays up to the crowd and says that, and asks them if they want the matchup. The crowd says yes, and then MJF proceeds to just completely bash on the city, and says that Cleveland isn't worthy of this historical matchup. MJF does agree to have the match, though, next week in Chicago. And then he mentions that when CM Punk loses, he will turn on everyone, insinuating that he will complain about everything, like in his, towards the end of his WWE years, which, again, he put that completely out of context because, CM Punk was actually in the right. He was quite popular. But, I'm not going to go over the wrestling history. I'm sure there's thousands of videos that explain that history between management and CM Punk. Okay, post promo, Pinnacle comes out and Sean Spears actually attacks CM Punk from the back. Spears and FTR hit him with the chair, and Wardlow is kind of like standing back because he's technically part of the Pinnacle by association with MJF, and he watches and he doesn't do anything. He's kind of like reminiscent of attacking him. But then MJF asks him to powerbomb him. Wardlow reluctantly does it. Wardlow ends up powerbombing him on the chair. MJF mocks Punk by sitting on him, laying like Punk did in his pipe bomb promo. We see a shot of Wardlow not looking like too happy with what he had done, and then MJF says that it's funny that his career will end in the same place it started. So saying, he debuted in Chicago and his career will end in Chicago, quote unquote. So yeah, match is set up for next week. CM Punk, MJF. I'm thinking this is going to be the main event. I can't think of anything else that would take precedence over this. This storyline has been building up for almost 2 months now. So, we're going to get either the payoff next week or it's going to set up something for like the pay-per-view, which we're getting really close to at this point. Okay. Yeah, so the Acclaimed get a vignette talking about Moxley attacking him, and after the bell, Doncaster says Bowens is going to beat Mox on Rampage. So match set up for Rampage, Moxley versus Anthony Bowens. So should be an all right match. Bowens isn't a ring general or anything, but Moxley kind of is. He's kind of vanilla. He kind of depends mostly on his opponents to make the match like flashy or really entertaining, but that doesn't mean Moxley's not a great wrestler in his own right. So it should be a decent match, at best. Then we move on to the next segment. Mark Sterling comes out and says to Julia Hart with Griff Garrison that she has been chosen for a TBS championship match against Jade Cargill. Garrison tries to talk her out of it as she has the eye patch or the eye injury. But Hart says that she can fight her own battles, and then she signs like the little contract for like non-liability in case something happens to her because of the eye. Now you're going to wonder like, why is she getting a championship match if she's not even like ranked top 5? And it's because the TBS and the TNT title are not ranked. You don't need to be ranked to have a match for those titles. It's more of like the champion who decides or management who decides who's going to fight for it. So it gives more flexibility to book people like in different situations. So that'll be interesting. I don't think the match is going to be that great. I mean, Julia Hart isn't a good wrestler. Like, she's not even like baseline good. She's kind of like weak. Other people kind of have to carry her in matches. And Jade Cargill is again incredibly green. I know I'm gonna talk a little bit about her match on Rampage last week, and I was saying that match might not be like too great, and it was okay. Like no one really made too many big mistakes. So hoping that kind of translates into next week, and both these ladies are able to like synergize as good as like Jade was able to synergize with Anna Jay last week. So hopefully that's what happens, and we don't get a really embarrassing match. So yeah, that's scheduled for Friday, and I believe it's live again. So that should be good. All right, Leila Hirsch versus Red Velvet. I actually thought this match was decent. Like, I was thinking this was going to be bad, but no, it was actually really good. Velvet charges into the ring, and the match starts brawl style. Velvet rolls out after being shook. Some back and forth outside the ring, and both are on the apron. Velvet tries to out wrestle her, but Hirsch shows her power by driving a power bomb into the corner. Then it goes in commercials. When we return from break, Hirsch has control of the match, but Velvet hits a counter. Then she hits double knees on the back, and then she clutches her shoulder. Hirsch attacks the shoulder, and then after managing to hit it looked like a V-trigger. She even did the little finger pointy things like Kenny does. She goes for the pin, and then instead of like actually pinning her to 3, she actually brings up her shoulder, a Velvet shoulder up, signifying that she kind of just wanted to inflict more damage. Then puts Velvet into a cross arm breaker. Velvet puts her foot on the rope, breaking the arm breaker. Then Velvet rolls her up, and then after a series of roll-ups between the two, Hirsch actually pulls on the tights and gets the pin. Post-match, Hirsch attacks Velvet, and Chris Statlander comes out to defend Velvet. It was an interesting match. So technically, if I had an updated roster ranking, which will be posted on Friday on AEW's website, Leila Hirsch should be actually ranked number 1. Now she's working heel, so you really can't put her up against Jade Cargill because she's heel, and you can't put her up against DMD either because she's also heel. Because Chris Statlander came out after the match and tried to defend Velvet, I'm assuming they're setting up a rematch between Chris Statlander and Leila Hirsch, as Chris Statlander actually won their last encounter. So I'm sure Velvet's looking for some redemption. I don't think we see Hirsch winning against Chris Statlander, but honestly, she looked rather impressive during this match. My notes for this match are quite short because, there were so many other things going on here, but for a women's match, this was actually pretty decent. Probably one of the best matches this year as far as like AEW television women's matches. I know I said like the Serena Deeb match was quite good last week, but that's because it was kind of a squash match. In terms of like a competitive match, this was actually, pretty decent in my opinion. So yeah, hopefully these two women keep working together or, working on their own stuff. Velvet has improved a lot in a year. So looking forward to see what she does. I would actually like to see her challenge for one of the championships. I think we get maybe a DMD Red Velvet match again. I mean, we already had it once, but, revisiting that match would not be too bad of an idea. Or maybe we build up Velvet and, after a couple months, we see her take the TBS championship from Jade Cargill, because they also had a rivalry going on not too long ago, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. So hoping to see that again. Just more of Velvet in general. I don't mind that she lost here, but hopefully she gets some more wins. Okay, House of Black promo with actually more of a vignette with Malachi Black. He mentions that the House of Black loves to add conflict to everything. Brody King comes out and says that Pac has denounced the house, and when he is defeated, he will turn to the House of Black. Malachi says that they are inevitable. Very Thanos-like. I really enjoyed this. Anything House of Black has been absolutely fantastic the last couple of weeks. More of this, please. I can't wait to see the... I don't know if it's... I think it's Brody King versus Pac, the match that's going to happen. But that should be pretty awesome. Brody King, impressing me a lot just by promos. So, and I've heard a lot about his in-ring ability. I haven't watched any of his matches outside of AEW, which he doesn't have any AEW matches yet. But I'm hoping that he will deliver with Pac. I mean, Pac always delivers regardless. So it doesn't matter. Even if Brody King's okay, Pac was going to carry him through to a great match. So looking forward to that. I don't know when that's happening. Or maybe I missed it and it's next week. You'll know next week for sure. I'll have a definite answer for that. Sammy comes out and he doesn't cut a promo because, he says nothing. He comes out with his cue cards, kind of like last week. And it was pretty much a thank you to the audience for supporting him and saying like he's the undisputed TNT champion. When we return from break, Britt Baker is introduced by Tony Schiavone. Britt comes out in Pittsburgh Steelers gear. Hey, shout out to the Jolie podcast. Go watch that if you want more Pittsburgh Steelers type of content. Britt Baker waves her terrible towel. She mentioned she had a great year with a match of the year, most improved wrestler, and female wrestler of the year. She actually said she got that award by two different, wrestling magazines. She mentions that Baker Mayfield was sacked 9 times versus the Pittsburgh Steelers while injured. And Britt Baker, while injured, managed to win the AEW World Championship. She also mentions that she is the only Baker that matters, and she is the face of AEW. She also mentions that she won't settle until she is female wrestler of the decade. Not sure what's going on here. She just came out and kind of touted herself up and buried Cleveland all in one go. I'm hoping that we get like that Thunder Rosa match we've been talking about. I mean, we see Thunder Rosa drop down to the number 4 spot. And I'm really hoping that they do something with her. That Mercedes Martinez match is nowhere near in sight, which is surprising because I thought we were going to build up that match. But yeah, nothing from that front. And so, I don't know, man. I just kind of want to see Thunder Rosa win some more matches and challenge for the title, and win it. Because now that I'm growing tired of DMD, but it's been a year, and I think Baker's been working injured the last couple of months. So maybe it's time to either have her relinquish the title and crown someone new, or have Thunder Rosa beat her in the next couple months, because it's not a great idea to keep it on DMD for too much longer, especially if she's not going to wrestle, because she hasn't wrestled very often. She mentioned in her promo that she's won 9 matches already, 9 matches in a row, but that's very few if you compare it to like Jade Cargill, who's like 25-0. So I don't know what's going on here. Hopefully, the main women's title can be advanced a little more. Nothing is set up with this, so hopefully next week we get something. All right, Vicki Guerrero and Nyla Rose come out, and Nyla says that Ruby Soho got a fluke victory over her, and she wants a rematch next week on Dynamite. Should be a solid match. Nyla is decent, and Ruby Soho, I think, is really good. So I think we're going to get a good match next week. All right, main event time, or I guess technically the main event was the previous match. It's a lights out match between Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy. And then says lights out match will not be an official AEW match. Obviously, this is all in kayfabe. It's definitely an AEW match. But basically, lights out means like anything goes. The only thing you have to do is pin your opponent. It doesn't matter if it's in the ring or not. There's no DQs, and the match, regardless of the outcome, does not count for records. So you will not be seeing any shift happening right here. As far as Adam Cole, I think he will stay number 1 ranked, and they've used this to set up different things. The last lights out match we got was Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, and even though Britt lost, she managed to win the championship later on. So the lights out match kind of sets up future rivalries depending on where the wrestler is. Usually the loser will have won a championship, and this will give kind of leeway into someone challenging in the future. Okay, Orange kind of crushed his glasses. He kind of like bent them and tossed them out. I guess showing that he was kind of serious about this match. So the match starts and it spills out to the outside immediately. Cassidy drop kicks Cole. Then Cole returns the offense by slamming Cassidy into the barrier. Then Cole goes under the ring to try to pull out a chair, and Danhausen comes out. If you don't know who Danhausen is, kind of has like a vampire gimmick. He wears face paint, very nice, very evil, and he does this whole vampire stance. So he kind of like points at Adam Cole, and a lot of people were on the internet was saying that like this is his curse that he bestows upon wrestlers, and so I guess he was cursing Adam Cole. We'll see if that has an effect on the match or not. Yeah, interesting. I love Danhausen, but this is not quite. I guess it was funny, but yeah, this is not quite how I would have done the debut, but it was fine nonetheless. It didn't really affect the match too much. Let me see. Chants of Danhausen happen. Orange Cassidy's confused. The chants continue throughout the crowd, cheering Danhausen's name. Cole tries to hit the Panama Sunrise from the ring, from the apron, but Cassidy counters it and drives both to the bellkeeper's table. After some offense, from both Cole and Cassidy. Cole introduces several objects into the rings as it goes into commercials. When we return from commercials, we see Cole and Cassidy having a tug of war over a chain, and then Cole manages to transition this tug of war into a neck breaker. Cole attempts a brain buster on on two chairs that were like set up, but Orange Cassidy reverses it into a Michinoku driver on the chair. Cole calls out the Elite, and they kind of have a brawl outside with best friends. The Young Bucks enter the ring as it looks like they're going to triple super kick Cassidy. Roppongi Vice comes out and pulls the Young Bucks from the ring. And then this allows Cassidy to hitch the beach break and the orange punch. Cole goes for as he transitions out of these things. Cole goes for a low blow, and Cassidy pulls a cup from his pants. He kind of shows the crowd, kind of nasty. Cassidy hits the Panama Sunrise, and he actually can't pin Cole. This actually really popped the crowd, so the crowd really loves seeing Cassidy use the Panama Sunrise. It's usually an Adam Cole move. Cassidy wraps chains around his hands, and Cole rolls out before hitting the orange punch. Cole runs to the backstage area. Orange Cassidy follows him. They brawl in the backstage area, and Cole puts Cassidy through a backstage table. Cole hits a super kick to set up the boom on the outside. They've moved pretty much to the front of the arena stage, but can't hit the boom. Orange Cassidy counters again with a super kick, and then Cole hits Cassidy with a stage light while he's trying to, hit Adam Cole with orange punch. Cole climbs onto the stage tunnel and looks for Cassidy as he's trying to set up a Panama Sunrise. He doesn't end up seeing him on the bottom, and it turns out that Cassidy is right behind him. Cassidy hits him with a low blow, and Cassidy wraps himself around Cole, and they both dive through the stage. Cassidy lands on top and gets the pin to win the unsanctioned match. So once again, this match didn't actually count for the AEW rankings, meaning that technically Adam Cole is still undefeated, although he has one, unsanctioned loss. So, yeah, it was a good match. The only gripe I kind of had with it was, when he was kind of like holding him, it kind of looked like a hug at some point, but he didn't even like manage to like wrap around him. I think it would have looked better if he wrapped around his waist and then kind of like, locked it in like this and then dove off of the stage. But, not going to complain too much about it. We got a really good match regardless. So, I tried putting it the best way I could on my description of the match. But again, this is one of those matches where you got to kind of go and watch it yourself. Same for the ladder match. I can only talk so much about it. And then you have to go and watch it. So we got really good matches back to back, at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show. And this honestly felt like a small pay-per-view to a certain extent, because both these matches are continuing storylines for a lot of people, and actually they leave it pretty open-ended because I don't know what Cassidy is going. I guess they're trying to build him back up to go for something, whether that be the TNT Championship or the AEW World Championship, although that both of those things are kind of tied up in their own stories right now. And then Adam Cole, it seems like this is the end of the rivalry with Cassidy, so hopefully they transition into something else. I don't know, maybe this puts Adam Cole out for a little bit, and then we get the Young Bucks versus Red Dragon while we're waiting, so we'll have to see. So yeah, great show this week, and I'm looking forward to next week. MJF and CM Punk will probably be the main event, and I think a lot of people have been looking forward to this match for a really long time. I don't think this will be their final match. I think something will happen to set up a match later on, because it's kind of weird that they're giving us this match. I guess it's in Chicago, so it kind of makes more sense, but I don't quite want to see it on television with commercial breaks and all that type of stuff. I'd rather see it at the pay-per-view, no interruptions, where we can see the full story throughout the entire match. Yeah, so that's it. That is the AEW review for January 26, 2020. This will be up on Friday. If you have not watched last week's review, please go watch the review. It did great for especially for the channel. It did almost more views than all of our football podcasts. So if you enjoyed this, go check out the Joe Lee podcast. Those have been pretty good. I mean, we got some really nice divisional matchups for the NFL. Go see those results over there on that video. And yeah, if you enjoyed this one, please hit that like and subscribe to be able to watch next week's review. For Joseph Yanez, this is Joe's Wrestling Reviews. I will see you next week.